Thank you for your report. I appreciate it. I, for one, am glad that this has been brought to light. I've been in this room where people have advocated against books that were discovered in the schools, and it was just glossed over. And for the governor to finally, and the DOE, Florida Department of Education, to make this policy and pass it down to the districts, I applaud, because somebody had to do something. These books got in, and I'm gonna coin this phrase, media morals. There has to be morals when we're talking about our students. Now, with that, what is a policy, and I'll ask you and Ms. Saunders, direct that to you as well, for going forward, for teachers who want to bring a book into our district?
Yes, ma'am. So it would fall under the guidelines of has to be vetted by a media specialist, and then if it's elementary, has to be added to the database so it can be in a searchable format.
Okay. Say a teacher wants to bring a specific book into their class, or right now even, I guess, if they're looking at these books in the specific classrooms and a media specialist is looking at it, are they the only person that deems that that book's okay to stay? Or is there a second opinion? Maybe there might be somebody else that have read that book or looked at that book at another school.
Right. Well,
That principal or media specialist say, I don't like this book, but this media specialist says, oh, I think it's fine.
Right. So as it is stated in here, principals are ultimately in charge of their libraries as well, working with the media specialists who hold the state certification and now the state training, and they've been trained. And then in conjunction with that, when you're adding to the library system, and we'll get into this Friday when we talk about the school library procedure, but the recommendation is from the state and from our district is when you go to buy and purchase library books, after the list has been vetted by the media specialists, reviewed by the principal, that it is presented at a SAC meeting, the parent organization meeting, for parents to approve as well, and then the books are available to be purchased.
Okay, so I guess I need to be a little more specific. If one principal and media specialist at one school says, I don't think this is age appropriate for my classroom shelf or media center, but the other principal and media specialist at another school says, I think it's fine. What happens with that?
So I think that goes into Friday's discussion when we talk about the procedure, because that would go with what the board will approve and decide as far as the entire procedure is concerned. That's my understanding, Ms. Saunders?
Correct. Any that are questionable will come to the board for final decision.
Okay. Policy or book?
It will be your policy.
Okay.
But we're talking about any material that is questionable will come before the board.
Okay, and in that policy, we could, I mean, third-degree felony is pretty heavy penalty if a teacher brought in a book that was deemed pornographic and or contained other materials that, quite honestly, students, we're here to educate kids in reading, writing, and math. And not a lot of this stuff should have ever gotten in there. How it got in there, it was infiltrated slowly, I think. And now we have to do this basic mass exodus of all of this material, which I'm glad we're gonna do. On the reconsideration procedure, number 4 and 6, Roman numeral 6. The question material will be placed with a parent consent requirement during the period of assessment. So students, if there's a book that needs to be reviewed, vetted, whatever you want to call, label you want to put on it, they can be checked out with a parental consent form. Is that my understanding of that one?
If it's been sent in for reconsideration, it immediately gets placed with a parent consent. That means it's taken off from the shelf, kept in the school library, the media specialist has a student that wishes to check out, pick up, read that book, etc., they must acquire parent consent before they're able to hand that book to the student.
Okay. And then you said that media specialists will be the only ones vetting the materials, because that concerns me. I think, and then again, to the books that a teacher may bring in, excuse me, into their class. That's of concern to me as well. Because I don't think we would have gotten here had every book that's on the shelf gone through a proper vetting process. I spent my afternoon yesterday going through the required training for child abuse, neglect, and sex trafficking. So, and a lot of the materials that we're actually talking about is covered under all of this training. So books have gotten into our system and inside a classroom that actually should have not been allowed in, to be quite honest. So that's how we've gotten to this point in our system, is because books was brought in. And that brings me even to, video material that can be checked out. Is that vetted with the media specialist? Because a media specialist at one school can have a different opinion than a media specialist at another school. In my opinion, if a book is deemed bad at one school because of some of these topics that we have to take training on, that should be a district-wide book that should be taken off, not just at one school. Okay, all right. But again, I go back to the media specialist vetting that book may differ between the west side of town and the east side of town. So that causes me concern, and that goes back to my question on committees that was brought up by Mr. Tatum. To me, I think there should be committees. This may be farther down the road in this process, but I think there should be committees that would actually look at some of these materials. So that having a book that's being reconsidered is basically what this is. It's been pulled, it's been reconsidered, but a student can still check that book out is bothersome to me. I don't think once it's deemed in as being questionable material, I think that book should be pulled and then vetted properly, whether that comes through a committee, through the board, whatever. I'm an author, and people have asked me, what would you do with your book? Because it contains some bad things in it. And I've told everyone that's asked me that, I would not put my book on a school library shelf. I did not write that book for that. I wrote that book to educate educators and counselors and that type of thing. So I know where some of this stuff is coming from, and it is bothersome to me with the amount of emails that I've got that we're having a town hall with a book banning party. That's not the case. All of the people that are employed with us have to go through all of the child abuse, sex trafficking training, and the sex trafficking training even says some people don't even know that they're being trafficked. Some people in the media specialists may not realize that that book may not bother you, but it may bother a student in another school. So that is my biggest concern with this. I hold this topic very dear to my heart because I can see where some kids could get their hands on some things that they don't need to see, to be quite honest. And again, I go back to years of even my own now college student, college level grandchildren had required reading that had some content in it, and they were in middle school. And I questioned that of the parent, and the parent actually pulled them and said, I'm not gonna let my kid read that. So I was thankful for that. But this isn't not a new topic. This topic has been around for a long time. And again, I can't state it enough. I'm glad that Manatee, we may take some hits from people in the public, but I think Manatee is going to be the sample of how we are taking action on this. We're just not going to sit back and allow some of this stuff to go on in our schools. That's all I have. Thank you.